title of the message tonight is Break the Bottle. Everybody say break the bottle. All right, now who wants to break the bottle? Anybody? I need a volunteer. No, okay, we'll come back to that in a little bit. Hey, this is a very different message or a very different style of message than I sometimes do. If you know me, I prefer to come up here and tell some jokes and make you laugh and all that and get everybody comfortable and then, slowly tiptoe into a problem, maybe share a few stats about whatever in the world and so why we gotta, and then we go to the Bible. Tonight, I just feel like the assignment's different. I feel like I'm supposed to go straight into the Bible stuff. And so I'm excited. I'm thrilled about it, actually. Mark 14 is going to be the reading. And so, man, the pins that I heard click, that was so sick. It was like click, Mark 14. That was awesome. Or maybe your phone's opening up. I don't know, silence your phones. But hey, if you brought a Bible, go to Mark 14. Or if you have an app on your phone, you can download the Bible app, YouVersion Bible app. Or you can just Google Mark 14 on your phone. But we'll go quick tonight, short message. But this is the same chapter as the Lord's Supper and Jesus getting arrested. This is like a dramatic time in the scriptures. And if this was a movie, there'd be like sort of a heavy soundtrack. Mark actually would sometimes like to go back and forth between heavy stuff and the kind of light stories. So he's slipping in this one. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's not as heavy as the other stuff in the chapter. But this one scene would not be quite as tense, but it is, I don't know, there's definitely some conflict in it. And this is how it starts. Mark 14, beginning in verse 1. We'll put it on the screens. Now the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread were only 2 days away. Doesn't that sound like the sickest festival you've ever been to? That's going to be so, who wants to go with me to the festival of unleavened bread? It doesn't sound just dope. Can I at least get do y'all even say dope anymore? No. Can I at least get a festival of tacos or something, right? Let's go to Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. That was a religious thing, honestly. Think of it kind of like their passion. This was like a big, thing we look forward to. It was only 2 days away. And the chief priests and the teachers of the law were scheming to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him, but not during Passion, they said, or people may riot. That's basically what they're saying. They're like, if we do it at Passion, that there's a lot of people on his side there, and so we need to sort of wait and try not to create such a scene. Now, if you grew up in church, or if you've read this before, spoiler alert, it ends up happening in the middle of Passion, basically. It ends up happening in the middle of Passover, potentially as if this plan was bigger than maybe just their plan. But we'll get there. Verse 3. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. Now that sounds gross. Like, what is nard? I don't know. But it was not. You need to think like very nice perfume. This was probably a family heirloom. This is probably something they passed down like from mother to daughter, and then she passed it down to her daughter. The fact that it was in an alabaster jar is sort of the symbol that this is like kind of a very special thing. So think like super expensive perfume. What would be a super expensive perfume these days? Anybody? Okay, yeah. When I was growing up, my cologne was Abercrombie. I know when you think me, you think Abercrombie. Probably Abercrombie model. I know, I get it. But again, we all have a past. But no, she's bringing this very expensive perfume. Lady walks in. Who is she? What is she doing here? Why has she got the perfume? Why is she bringing it? Verse continues. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head, Jesus' head. Imagine somebody coming in here tonight and busting a jar of perfume on your head. You'd be like, it's been raining all day. I finally got this situation under control and got here to college nights to see and be seen or whatever. And you're going to come in and do that. It's not like that. Imagine this situation. Imagine this scene. Imagine you're sitting there, you're Jesus, and you're talking to Simon the leper, and you're sort of, just chilling around the table, probably a table in the living room. That was kind of how they did it back then. And then from behind you, you just begin to feel this expensive, you smell this oil just falling on your head in this kind of reverent way, this worshipful way. Verse 4. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, why this waste of perfume? That's an interesting word. We got to come back to that. It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuked her harshly. Now, this is not a whole, sermon about this, but there is a word here about cynicism. If you have a friend who's just kind of new to all the Jesus thing, can we not, immediately jump to all the ways that they're not doing it correctly? That's what they were doing in this moment. She's not even doing it right? So sometimes we do this, by the way, when we see people who are responding to God in ways that are bigger than us, or the way that we do it. It's so easy to get cynical and go, is it real? What are they doing? Are they trying to perform? Are they just doing it because it's, college nights or whatever? Can we not jump straight to cynicism? The religious people are literally trying to talk her out of her worship to God. They're saying that her worship was too unreasonable. More on that in a minute. Verse 6, leave her alone, Jesus said. Why are you bothering her? And I love this. She has done, not a wasteful thing, a beautiful thing. If you're taking notes, write that down. She has done a beautiful thing. And then he says something really interesting. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you will not always have me. In other words, I love this, it's not either or, right? In a broken world, the problem of poverty, Jesus is saying, is probably never gonna grow away. In other words, you should give to the poor, but that's not how the world gets saved. I tell you, our church gives so much money to the poor, giving away like almost $4 million to local nonprofits in the last decade, so we believe in it. But even Jesus is going, look, that you should do that, do it when you can, but that's not what's ultimately going to save the world. Let's not make a religion out of just that, right? All right, verse 8, I love this. He says, she did what she could. The Message translation, if you're writing, taking notes, says she did what she could when she could. Scripture says, she poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. In other words, she actually believes that I am who I say I am. I rode in on the donkey, remember that? And you had the palm leaves. She is actually saying, I believe that this is not a show, that this is not an act, that this is not, magic, that this is not just a fairy tale that we're hoping is true. I really believe Jesus is the most beautiful, powerful, wonderful name. And so Jesus says, truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, even in Athens, Georgia, should have been back to back to back, but some people cheat, and that's fine. What she has done, that wasn't even in the notes, that's just coming out of me. That's probably the Holy Spirit. What she has done will also be told in memory of her. The story is going to be told for thousands of years. And sure enough, he was right. Now, again, that's probably doesn't even make the list of top 100 most amazing things that Jesus said or did, or his top miracles. But that's pretty amazing, right? That he's saying to them, guys, what's happening in this tiny apartment in Jerusalem right now, people are going to talk about for thousands of years. That's pretty cool. We're talking about it tonight. Now, verse 10, we're almost done, but we get introduced to a new character right here at the end. And you've probably heard of him before, maybe. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted to hear this and promised to give him money. So he watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over. Now look, tonight is not about money. There's no offering at the end, but don't miss this. Judas betrayed Jesus for money. This woman betrayed money for Jesus. Judas, who would later kill himself because he felt so bad about what he had done, betrayed Jesus for less money than this woman gave up just to get close to her, right? Or just to get close to him, right? Just because he loved him. In fact, this is fascinating, but that word waste, that same word that was used to say this woman wasted her perfume on Jesus, is the same word that's used in John 17 to describe Judas and talking about how Judas wasted his life. So maybe this woman wasn't wasting anything at all. Now, got to stop here and ask the very obvious question. But who is the hero of this story? It's okay to give the Sunday school answer. We'll try again. Who is the hero of this story? Jesus is the hero of this story. He's the one that she's bowing down and worshiping. He's the one that she's breaking the perfume on his head. The point of the story is, in a sense, how do you respond to Jesus, right? Or what role does Jesus play in your life? For Judas, Jesus was just a means to an end. For some of us, Jesus is just a means to an end. But for this woman, Jesus was the end. So what do we learn from this? Really, just want to point out three things, just kind of from my notes studying this passage. Felt like I was supposed to bring it to you tonight. And so 3 observations, and then we'll sing a song and be done. But the first is this. She did not see Jesus as somebody to get something from. She saw something about her vision, something of just her natural response to Jesus. She saw Jesus as somebody to sacrifice for. For her, Jesus is not a vending machine. Hit C5, out comes a Fanta, if it all works right. Everybody else in these stories is always asking Jesus for things. Jesus, when we get to heaven, can I have that good seat? Is there like a way to do like a VIP thing in heaven? Can I get on the list or whatever? Or Jesus, need you to heal somebody. Or Jesus, we're out of wine and this wedding's kind of womp womp now. And so if you can show up and do that Jesus thing we've been hearing about, everybody's coming and asking for Jesus. Everybody always busts in the room and asks Jesus for something. Except this woman. That's not her game, right? It hits different. I put in my notes, is your relationship with God more about getting or giving? Is it more about getting? I'm trying to get this from God. I need God to come through for me. Or is it about giving? And what if this was the year that you shifted your relationship with God from getting to giving? If we're honest, we think that it's the getting that's going to heal us, don't we? If I could just get that job, if I could just get that, that relationship to get going, or maybe get the relationship to end, if I can just get this, thing, then that's what's going to heal me. But come on, when we're doing that, aren't we just making idols out of the things that can't actually heal us in the first place, right? And I would say here's the real problem. Getting, what can I get from God today, doesn't require any faith. There's no faith in that. It doesn't really cost you anything. And yet Jesus would say time and time again, it's actually your faith that's healed you. And so for some of us today, maybe the reason that you're not growing like you wish you were growing spiritually, or maybe the reason you're not healing like you wish you were healing spiritually, is your relationship with God so far has primarily been about getting. And maybe the healing is actually in the surrender. It's so countercultural. You guys, know this, but it's like the DoorDash culture, right? Amazon Prime all the time. And so, if you just get a hankering for, Cane's or Choo Choo or whatever, it's like at your house in 15 minutes. It's amazing. Your roommate's like, didn't you already eat? And you're like, I did. Okay, I saw an ad and now it's here, and I'm having the Cane's or whatever. That's the culture that we all live in, that you grew up in. It's not your fault. Amazon Prime is the thing. So you're used to 2 days or less. So we come to God and we're like, God, I really would like somebody to date, and can they be here by Thursday, please? And then when it doesn't happen, and God is not as, fast as Amazon for you, what do we do? We go, well, God is not real. God, he doesn't love me. We're just in this posture, this DoorDash sort of culture that we live in, right? But not this woman. She said, if I'm going to get anything, all I want to get is close to Jesus, because she knows what he's about to do for him on the cross. There's another story, if you're taking notes, we won't get to read all of it. But in Luke 7, a very similar version of the story. Most scholars would say it's probably a different story. But the scriptures in Luke 7 say there's a sinful woman who comes to Jesus. And similar deal, weeping, pours perfume on his feet in that story. And they're like, look, if you really knew, or if you were really a prophet, Jesus, you would know that this woman is totally got this huge past. And Jesus responds to them and essentially says, that's the point. You're not emotional at all, but sorry, this woman is so undone, but it's because she knows how much she's messed up, and she knows what I'm about to do for her on the cross, to forgive her of her sins. So sorry if she's a little emotional about it. Same sort of thing happening in this chapter in Mark. And yet there's this other group of people who are looking at it going, it's waste. It's not reasonable. Cynical criticism. It says they chastise her, right? And I'm just curious. Anybody ever accuse you of wasting something on God? Maybe it is money, right? It's how you tithe or you give, or you're passionate, you're going on a retreat or whatever. It's just something you choose to give to some other place, a missions organization, right? Maybe it's not money, right? Maybe it's your degree. Like you're here and you're getting your whatever degree in a few months, but you're not really going to use that degree. And people are throwing you hate because you're not going to use that degree because you feel called to missions or ministry. Or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's your prime dating years. Anybody ever accuse you of you're wasting your prime because you won't just kind of go do whoever with whatever, right? Because you honor God with your dating choices. Or you care about those other people, right? Has anybody ever accused you of wasting something on God? I want to tell you, you are not wasting anything you spend on Jesus. It's a big takeaway from this talk. All right, number 2, we got to go. This woman did not do what was reasonable. She did what was beautiful. I love that. I put in my notes, reasonable faith leads to a reasonable life. Beautiful faith leads to a beautiful life. And every single one of us has to make a choice tonight and this semester. Do you want a reasonable faith or do you want a beautiful faith? If you want a reasonable faith, that's so easy to do in this town, right? Just kind of hop around, check out the different ministries, be seen, all that stuff. Definitely don't get plugged in. Certainly don't join a group. Definitely don't serve. Don't do any of that. Don't plant roots. Don't bring up God in your classes. Don't leverage your social media for Him. Don't be an outspoken on your team about your relationship with God. It's never been easier in Athens, Georgia, to have a reasonable faith. But if you want a beautiful faith, that will always require some form of sacrifice. But I would just ask you, and I don't know your story, I don't even know what that would look like for you specifically, but what story do you want to tell? Do you want to tell that I just had a reasonable faith and it just led to me being, sort of reasonable kind of marriage. We sort of reasonably built it on God. And I had a company that was it was pretty reasonably God a little bit. Or do you want to tell the story that you were sold out all in on Jesus, right? And there will be times, honestly, this year where you will have to decide, sometimes in a moment where it's just you and maybe one other person, are you going to choose reasonable or are you going to choose beautiful? What would it look like for you to have beautiful faith tonight? And number 3, last one. She did what she could when she could. That's what the Message translation said. She did what she could when she could. She had an opportunity and she didn't waste it. To quote the first Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, she was not throwing away her shot. That's not in the Bible exactly, word for word, but that's basically what she was saying. And the 5 people, I guess, who watch Hamilton got that joke. That's fine. Take that out if I ever do this talk again. Here's what I love about it. Not Hamilton, but this is what she's saying. We make faith so complicated sometimes. What am I going to do? How do I honor God? And I'm starting this whole thing. How do I, be a dad who leads my house spiritually? How do I, in a dating relationship, how do I lead this girl spiritually? And how do I get close to God? And how do I, get in the Bible? And I don't know what these words mean. There's a lot of big words in this, and they sound from the different languages. And it's like we make following God so complicated. I have to get my whole life figured out. I don't even, most days I get paralyzed by which dining hall to go to. Because this one, it's like the grill line's pretty good, but they got the pizza and they got the smoothie. And so we get so paralyzed sometimes by what does it look like to honor God with my whole life. And I'm telling you, you don't have to have it all figured out tonight. Maybe you came here tonight to hear me say, do what you can when you can. I'm asking you to consider making this the year that you turn your relationship with God from getting to giving. What does that mean? It means do what you can when you can. What if you just focused on right now? Some of you would go, I don't even have anything to offer God. Well, if you're taking notes, write down 2 Kings 4. We don't have time to get into 2 Kings 4, but there is an amazing story in 2 Kings 4, beginning in verse 1, where this woman's husband's died. That's sad. But apparently he had some debts, and so these debt collectors come to this woman, and they go, we're going to take your sons as slaves if you can't pay back the debt. She's devastated. She literally tells them, I have nothing. And they go, surely you have something. And she goes, well, I do have, ironically, this one jar of oil. I do have this. And the kind of priest in the town hears about it and says, what if you just went around to all your friends and got as many of those jars as you can? And every time she got a jar, it filled up with oil. Now, why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because it's so easy to get focused on what we don't have, that we lose sight of what we have. She said, I don't have anything. Just this one little jar of oil. And I'm telling you, one bottle is all you need. So how do we, what's the action step for this tonight? How do we apply this? I'm going to invite the band back out. We're going to do a song in a minute. I think it's doing the same thing that this woman did, and it's breaking the bottle. And if you're wondering if I'm actually going to break this bottle, I haven't decided yet. No, I'm probably not going to. I don't want to get sued by these dudes in the front row who in case it breaks in them. This is a metaphor. But the question is this: what could you do to get closer to Jesus? Not what could you get, what could you give? What could you do? And so I made a list as we close. Maybe for you it's baptism. You're hearing these baptisms tonight and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I've just fought it off for so long and I've just I felt like I should. I haven't. I want to tell you, good news for you. We're having a baptism night in April. Our college nights in April is going to be a baptism night, and you don't have to shoot a video. We won't have time to show that many videos. Last year there were 14 students that got baptized on that night. Maybe for you, the step that you would want to take, but the step that God would be calling you to do that is so scary and everybody would just criticize you for, you're so afraid to tell your story, you have so much fear. Maybe for you, breaking the bottle looks like going public with your faith. I've seen this, and I remember even talking to Grace, thinking through her journey of, is it time to tell my story? I think I'm ready. She pulled me aside. Maybe it was the September, October college night. She said, I think I'm ready. I really believe your choice, whether it's baptism or not, but your choice to go public with your faith in Jesus will help you overcome so many other fears in your life. And so if you're a Christian, if you've never done that, probably not an easier time than this April at college nights. And I want to tell you that tonight just to put that on your radar. Some of you you're so sure of it now. You need to go on tonight. You need to pull up our Instagram and hit up the link in the bio and click on the baptism thing, because that would be your way of doing this. That would be your way of saying, I'm not going to let fear or what other people think about my story get in the way of what I know God's calling me to do. And I've got a lot of reasonable excuses, but I don't want to be bound by them anymore. Some of you is joining a small group. Tonight's not about small groups. We didn't do a small group video today, but small groups are open. This is like, you could do that. If you don't have a community group, you could literally get one. You, again, go on our website, pick the whole thing, go on our Instagram, the link's in our bio. But I talk to students all the time, so many excuses, right? So much fear, right? Well, I'm halfway through the semester and I'm a transfer, so I'm not gonna know anybody, or I'm about to graduate, or, I don't even like people. It's like, we knew that as soon as we met you. You don't really love people, and that's fine, but you need to find your people. Or maybe you're like, I had a bad experience in group one time. It's like, how old were you? Well, I was 12. Okay, cool, right? It's like, we said this before, but you don't stop eating burritos because you had one bad experience at Moe's, right? And who here has not had at least one bad experience at Moe's? No, you move on. You elevate your burrito game to Chipotle and you try again. Imagine not having burritos because of one bad experience. But we do this all the time. And honestly, it's so crazy. It's so crazy because you won't take the step and you're dying of loneliness. And I am asking you to trust God with your loneliness. Your refusal to put yourself out there. I know it's awkward. It's like, do guys even do this? Yes, I'm in a group with lots of them. But your refusal to try to humble yourself in that way is your way of saying you can trust God with your loneliness more than he can. And I'm just saying, just try. What if that's actually the thing that would bring you close to him? We heard it in both stories tonight. That wasn't planned, that's God. Maybe for you it is a money thing, honestly. You're always asking God for stuff, never really giving him much. We just started this series on Sunday mornings called All In. It's like, talking about what does it mean to be all in with Jesus. You can't be all in with Jesus if you're holding back like your stuff. Like, money is a rival God to him. And I'm telling you, do what you can when you can. I don't think, if you have $100 in your banking account, that God is asking you to give $1 million to him. But he might be asking you to give $10 of that, $100, so that one day, if you make $1 million, he knows that he can trust you with it. And I'll tell you, again, because they already told you I'm 38, and you may or may not know this, but my freshman year at Athens Church is when, or my freshman year rather at UGA is when Athens Church started. It was around this time in 2005. We had our first service ever 19 years ago. I believe in this so much. I have been tithing to Athens Church longer than some of you have been alive. That's how all in I am with what God is doing in the city. And honestly, the best part about it, and I love telling people this, is that sort of generosity breaks your heart. Like, so many of us are so scared of money. If you ever feel anxious about money, give some away. Because it breaks the chains that money and greed have on you, right? And honestly, again, I wasn't even planning on saying this, but I don't even care if it's here. If you're a Christian and you're not giving God some of your money, but you're trying to get stuff from him, if you're a Christian and you're not tithing, you got to start tithing somewhere. Doesn't matter if it's here. You got to start tithing somewhere. You got to put God at that level of priority in your life and then watch him show up. And then when he provides for you, you go, look at God. Like, so many of us are asking God to show up in our life, but not exactly giving him a lot of chances. There's one you could. Last one. Maybe it's some other act of surrender altogether. Has nothing to do with anything we talked about other than the fact that it's the only thing you've been able to think about for about 27 or 28 minutes. And I'm just, it's painfully obvious. And I'm just telling you, as one of your pastors, somebody who loves you, do that thing. Do that thing. We tell the story a lot of our friend Noah. Noah's a college student, came up to me after a January college nights with the weirdest question I've ever heard, which is, hey man, you got a paper cutter? I was like, that's a weird question, bro, but what's that? And he goes, I want to cut up my fake ID. I was like, okay. We do in fact have a paper cutter. Actually, we have a whole Office Depot basically in the back. And so let's go do that, because he was tired of the party lifestyle or whatever. And then this other guy that he had just met that night, Luke, was like, cool, man, I'll cut mine up too. And it's like, all of you? Like you all, but apparently, yes, everybody, that was the deal or whatever. But when Noah was baptized at the April college nights of that same year, or when he shared his testimony on this stage about a year or two later, he said that decision was the greatest decision in his life. It's because it's the thing, that surrender, that 180, that I don't even know what to do on the weekend if I'm not partying. That level of surrender was the thing that just ignited his faith. That's what we're talking about. I mentioned again that similar story in Luke 7 of the sinful woman. Scholars believe that woman was probably a prostitute, whether she wanted to be or not. And the reason they say that is because the alabaster jar was around her neck. And the reason that women in that industry would do that back then is because, every time or every day or whatever, they would tend to open it up and take a couple dots and put it right under their nostrils, either to kind of get their own smell out, or they put it on the man sometimes, just trying to sort of refresh. And so when this woman in that story, this sinful woman, takes the alabaster jar and pours it out on Jesus, she's saying, I am giving up this lifestyle for something that may just be better. And I'm asking you, what are you willing to give up to get closer to Jesus? So many of us are just waiting and waiting and waiting on a breakthrough. And I am here to ask you tonight, what if the breakthrough is actually in the palm of your hands? And if it is, you have to do what that woman did, which is go, I don't care what they think. I don't care what it costs me. I just want to get closer to Jesus. So I'm breaking it wide open. And it may not be reasonable, but I didn't sign up for reasonable. I want beautiful. I want beautiful. And so the band's gonna sing the song. And I wanna just give you a chance to do what that woman did, to draw near to Jesus. I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe that's just at your seat, it's worship, it's thinking, it's singing. Maybe it's kneeling at your seat. But sometimes we do this. We'd love to open up this altar as just a chance to draw near to God, to come down, to get on your knees, to pray. Some of you need to surrender something, but it's like, feels so scary, and how am I even gonna say it, and how am I gonna tell my roommate, because there's a whole story, we're gonna be up late tonight, if I do this. Well, sometimes walking down front that's the 20 seconds of courage that you need to seal it, to get it out there. You can't get it out of your lips yet, but maybe your feet could begin to do the talking, and you could come down here. Maybe you'll need to talk to a soul, but you just need to get down here and talk to God and go, God, maybe I've been far from you. I haven't trusted you. I've been living a far too reasonable faith, not anymore. And I don't care if they call me crazy. I just want you. So we're gonna have a song and give you a chance to respond. Why don't you stand up? I wanna pray for you. God, only you know what that is for a student. Only you know what it means for them to do this. Only you know what their bottle is. Only you know, and them. And so I pray, even as we sing this song, would you give us the courage to do this? For anybody in the room who's feeling like, I'm not worthy. I want, even if I did want to draw close to Jesus, he doesn't want to let me near him. He does. He wants you to come so close to him. And so why don't you take this song and do that? Jesus, we love you so much. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Some give a little from their heart.
you.